Welcome to the Prevail Over Cancer Podcast, where we take a metabolic approach to help guide you on preventing, prevailing, and striving over cancer.
We are live on the Prevail Over Cancer Podcast. I'm Jeff Lopes, my incredible co-host, Keith Bishop. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. And you?
I'm doing amazing. This week, we are going to be jumping on a topic that's kind of almost like a hot supplement right now. And you're seeing a lot more people talking about it, posting about it. You introduced it to me. I had no clue what it was. I did my research on it. And the more you put time to learn about it, the more you see the benefits towards cancer and how much more research is being put behind it. And the supplement is called Berberine.
Yes.
I'm gonna let you dive right into. Yeah, let's go with that. I'm gonna let you dive right into it. We're talking. Why we're like laughing right now is we are trying to figure out the pronunciation of it prior, and with his okay accent, we are laughing as his Keith's pronunciation of it. But I mean, I said it the same way, Berberine. So let's talk about that. I take it. I only take twice a day. I take 500 milligrams. I take it prior to breaking fast, about half an hour prior to my first meal, and then I take it before dinner time. So I take it twice a day, 500 milligrams. There's so much proof and studies and evidence. Like, where'd you learn about it, and how did you start getting down that rabbit hole to learning more about it?
Well, we've had it for a long time, and traditionally have used it in functional medicine as an anti-parasite and anti-yeast product.
Interesting.
And so you take it. Matter of fact, it's you for many years. I don't know, 20 years. We've had it in products that have been a combination with other herbs for parasites. Various different products. Almost every single supplement company's got that kind of an item with berberine in it. And then finally, probably about 10 years ago is when I realized that there's more to it. And then it's by accident. I was going through the medical journals and looking at various different things and keep coming up with information about berberine for blood sugar control and even other health issues. So cardiovascular disease, diabetes. And so that's kind of the first area I was using it for, was blood sugar control, to bring blood sugar down. Like you mentioned, taking it before meal to help decrease that glucose spike. And the science is really interesting. We're learning so much more about it now in the past 10 years. But so that was kind of the main thing. But there's many different uses. So anything that can be affected by even circulation is impacted by this. So whenever our blood glucose is elevated, it starts damaging blood vessels. When blood vessels are damaged, now circulation decreases to whatever that organ is. So whether it be the brain, the kidneys, neuropathy, various different issues. So we were seeing some benefits, in studies started to show up for that. Oh, osteoporosis. So there's even studies showing that taking berberine can help out with bone density issues. But it all comes back to actually more like a circulation issue. Probably, if we can lower the blood glucose level, that allows the blood vessels to be healthier and can open up, and we get that better circulation head to toe. So the other area that I have a great interest, because of my family history, is like Alzheimer's. And so I started using it for treatment for Alzheimer's. If there's any concern about their blood glucose, we're adding in it to dementia protocols. And then I started, doing more and more, and started seeing these little blips about cancer, and it makes sense, And so once again, matter of fact, no matter what the health issue, when I'm doing my searches on the computer looking for a health issue, I'm looking at, does berberine have some research behind it? And 90% of the health issues, berberine has some research supporting it. So I know that's quite a long little spiel about it, but it's just like so important for many different health issues.
So when you're looking at, okay, let's talk about the origin of berberine. Like, is it coming from a fruit? Like, what's the origin of it? How do they extract it? Where do they get it from? Just
Yes. So originally, it's actually is from a plant. As a matter of fact, I think I've got it listed, on my website. It's an Ayurvedic herb, a plant, and actually, I don't even know the name of that plant. There is a plant herb source, but it has some berberine in. Matter of fact, there's two major plants with that in there. But the everything, all of the supplements that you see now, if it says berberine, actually it is a concentrated active ingredient. So there's going to be berberine and then the letters HCl behind it.
yes.
So so that actually means that it is a synthetically made copy of the active ingredient.
Interesting.
So no, it's kind of like, oh, people are going to go, oh, that's not natural. Well, it is a bioidentical chemical, that comes from the plants. So it is actually, more like maybe a drug in a way.
I was about to say that. So it is in a
It
way.
is almost like a drug. It really is. But I have full confidence in that. It's kind of like even, in the compounding pharmacy, we make bioidentical hormones, and it starts off with a plant, and they take whether it be soy, that's not our preference, or a wild yam, and they're going to convert that in the laboratory manufacturing process to make bioidentical hormones. To appropriately, bring those up. So the berberine is going to be the same way. They're going to start off with the plants and tweak that chemically in the manufacturing process and come up with these large quantities of berberine HCl. Now, actually, and another benefit about that is it is actually so popular and such actually a need for it. If we were to take all the plants, we'd kill all the plants. There's no way a plant product could give enough of this ingredient for the world. So we don't want to necessarily say, oh, it's not natural, I'm not going to take it. It is, an ingredient that's in the plant that they're able to make and provide for us.
I read something that, and I actually put a note here. There were studies showing it inhibited cancer cell proliferation. So explain that and the breakdown of that.
Yeah. So besides just the that I mentioned earlier about the blood glucose,
Yeah.
before the meals, I take it before the meals. My wife takes it before the meals. It's a standard type thing.
Let me ask one quick question. When you're talking about glucose, does it have any effect also where there is traces of glutamine as well? Does it have any effect on that, or just the glucose?
No, I think primarily glucose. I have
Okay.
been searching. I haven't checked it the last 2 months about glutamine, another topic we talked about, but it's more like glucose, and there's not a direct relationship between the two. Glutamine is a protein.
Yeah.
Glucose is carbohydrate. So, but no, I can't find anything about glutamine yet on that.
Okay.
But it does decrease the absorption of carbohydrates and sugars, from the cells. But another benefit is it has a major anti-cancer activity, in the cell. So just in a laboratory study, they have cancer cells and they add glutamine into it, and it helps stop the growth of cancer cells. So it's also an anti-inflammatory. That's one of the ways it's going to work too. As many herbs are also anti-inflammatory, brings down those inflammation chemicals. Therefore, it's not going to, that reduces cancer growth. So arthritis, pain, but any kind of a thing going on like that, even though we don't feel it, those inflammation chemicals can drive cancer. I've actually done blood tests on IL-6, an inflammatory marker, and I've had my clients, they're just shocked. Well, I don't have any pain, but their inflammation chemical is like way up there, and that's a major driver
for cancer, 100%.
And so we got to bring that down. So there are many different mechanisms about the berberine, not just glucose, but also has to do with the anti-cancer effect.
So, break down a little bit more details when we were talking about the cell structure and the breaking up. How does berberine affect that and change the outcome of that?
Well, you're talking about the growth of the cells.
Yeah. So when you talk about inhibit, it's the cell proliferation. How does it? Yeah, the growth aspect of it. How does it do that in more of a colson, but more of a simpler term? Yeah,
Exactly.
for our audience to understand better.
Yeah, so it's matter of fact, a lot of plant products are little tiny molecules, and they call them small particles in science.
Mhm.
And they're researching those for antiviral and antibacterial and anti-cancer, but they're so small they're taken into the cells and just help keep fast growing cells from growing. Proliferation is that dividing and growth. So matter of fact, in Berberine and the medical journals, there's over 50 different growth mechanisms that this helps to bring down.
Oh, wow.
So it's very extensive. So it's not just like a particular growth chemical. There's many different chemicals that the cancer cells, including inflammation, that cancer cells will use to grow. So many different things. So we've got blood glucose, we have inflammation, just a direct impact itself on cancer cells. And then there's also the immune system and gut response.
So now we have the understanding of that. Now, one thing you said prior to is bringing down inflammation, which is such a massive, whether you're trying to prevent cancer, prevail over cancer, you're in a cancer battle, you need to keep your inflammation levels down, and using this supplement even as an inflammation stopper or reducer is massive.
Yeah, it is. Right. Yeah. And it's not the only one too. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And so this whole thing, matter of fact, every time we're talking, it's not like, okay, this is the magic bullet, silver bullet, whatever.
We say that every podcast.
This is not it. And so it is part of that picture.
Yeah.
And so my favorite combination is actually, curcumin, the active ingredient, turmeric, and berberine, those two, and even quercetin, for other reasons. But that combination, those three things are like significant anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer growth. There between those three, herbs, and we talked about some of them before, but there's actually closer to 15,000 medical research articles on these three herbs, about cancer. So very important. So it's a combination, and something that's probably also extremely important is a cancer treatment. So whether you're going through a traditional or herbal type thing, probably the goal is to kill those cancer cells. And then it's the immune system's responsibility to go, oh, there it is. We got to get rid of that, eat it up and transport that, get it out of the system. And so berberine helps actually to kill bad bacteria, in the gut, and bacteria, yeast, and parasites. And then it helps actually a new, better balance to grow. And therefore indirectly help out with gut health and immune system. So we're talking about taking it before a meal, and a 500 milligram capsule is a common type dose for that. That's the least expensive version option on that. But for some people, when they first start taking it, they may get diarrhea because it actually has an antiseptic, antibacterial, kills out some bad bacteria, and that's the bulk of the bowel movement is bacteria. So we can kill that out. So at first, there's kind of like maybe a side effect of that. We decrease doses if need be. Take a probiotic, put the good bacteria in, but continue with that berberine, and then continue to increase doses, and to decrease that potential GI upset, or let's say diarrhea, loose stools or diarrhea.
Yeah.
But then there's a new normal that's going to develop. So I've seen that actually for many years on these anti-parasite supplements. We see the same thing. We see, kind of a kill out, loose stools, diarrhea, and then it'd get better. And then when they stop taking that product, often it's going to be, then there's a new normal that's going to happen. Sometimes more constipation or diarrhea, and things to kind of go back to where they were. If they start taking it again, it's going to be the same kind of a problem with that. So we start off at typically a lower dose, and we increase that. And then we have the basic ones like the Berberine HCl, and then other companies are actually having a process where they actually bind them to proteins to make them more like a food, so that they're better absorbed and actually less side effects, and we get more of the herbal ingredient that Berberine HCl into the body. And so there's some others that have they call it a protein scaffold to increase absorption, so we get less upset stomach and better absorption. And so with most berberines, I can just take like 1, maybe 3 times a day. If I take any more, I'm going to get loose stools. There's another one that I'm taking currently that, I can take actually 2 capsules, before each meal, and or snacks, anything with any kind of a carbohydrate in it. And so I can take 6 a day and I don't have any issues with loose stools because it's actually so well absorbed. So
when for our audience, when you are out there and you decide to add this to your supplements, you said there's 2 essential different on the market, different versions of it. Mm-hmm. Your first one, which is your basic one, the one I'm taking right now, and then your second one with the more protein. What's on the actual packaging? How do you defer the difference between them? What will be the difference?
Yeah, so they're the second. I mean, get a bottle of it here. So, like in this case, they have it's called a whey protein complex.
Oh, so you'll actually see that on an ingredient.
Exactly.
So they will increase the Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So and so this company, they actually bind several herbs to different proteins. Herbs are more like think of almost like adding a spice to something.
Yeah.
So it's like small quantities. If we go gigantic quantities, that increases the risk potentially of some digestive gut issues, and or there's not well absorbed. Same thing with curcumin, not well absorbed. Yeah. So this company actually, they're adding this, blending it into what they call a scaffold. So now it's a protein, so it's actually absorbed and it's not staying in the intestines. So that's going to be an option. It is more expensive, doing that. And it is a newer product, but it does work very well. And but people don't have to go that route. So so there's 2 basic options on that.
So in a perfect world, I mean, 500 milligrams should be sufficient. You would take it before each meal, half an hour before each meal. Is that correct?
Yes, meals with carbohydrates. Mm-hmm.
So even like you said, so you would even try to take it before snacks, or just your meal 3?
Any snack with carbohydrate in it.
Interesting.
So yes, I do like to go more ketogenic and lower carbohydrate, but we have to have carbs. It's going to happen. And so, if I have a small pear or a split an apple, something like that, I'll take, a berberine before that to help keep my blood glucose from going up. And so I use the Keto Mojo machine to measure my glucose, my ketones, to make sure that that's working right. So, my glucose is typically between 75 and 85. And so, before I eat, 2 hours after a meal, that's my goal. I want that glucose not to be above 85. So anything above that, and maybe the glucose may be too high, maybe in, easy food for cancer cells. Cancer cells will use many different things, carbs, proteins, and fats. But we got to be careful about going overboard on any of those.
Yeah, of course. Everything in moderation, everything controlled. So end of the day, berberine is approved.
Oh yeah.
It's cancer tactic approved. And it's also, like you said, it's a great addition to any supplements you're doing right now to your stack. And it has to be obviously controlled because of digestive issues. You want to make sure you start the process slowly, and you talk to obviously a physician if you are going to add it into your stack, whether you're doing traditional treatment or you're doing, as I said, the herbal treatments. But it's something that I use. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, something that you introduced me to. I had very I had no knowledge of it. I didn't even heard of it till you introduced it to me. And now it's part of my daily routine, is part of my daily supplements, and it's something I'll probably be doing the rest of my life. So I do approve of it. I never had the digestive issues with it. But I only take it twice a day.
Yeah.
After this podcast, I might actually start taking it 3 times a day, because the Cortin and the Curcumin, I take those 3 times a day. So I might actually increase this one, just add the extra one once a day, and
together.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I try to keep them all stacked together. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and rarely does it actually create a hypoglycemia effect. So there's actually research going on about that. And rarely does it create a hypoglycemia effect. It actually helps normalize glucose spike anyway. And so we don't get the insulin spike, glucose spike, and then the crash afterwards. This helps decrease that from happening. The only other caution, once again, actually I have a lot of people doing this. They're going to be taking it along with other blood sugar, glucose lowering drugs. Many people have been taking it together. And there are all the new, even weight loss type products. We just have to be extra cautious, with some of those injections and other forms and metformin. But so far, I have yet to see any hypoglycemic issues doing it.
Perfect. This has been awesome. Another incredible, informative podcast with you, Keith. So I appreciate it, and you're adding so much value to everybody. I say this every week, and I get so excited to sit down and talk to you, because I'm learning. Like today, it was just absorbing more and more and more information. So I appreciate everything you do, brother.
Right. Yeah, you're welcome. Yep. Make a little change and learn a little bit, make another change.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. I'll see you next week.
Hey, thank you.